Trish Tillotson, DPW.
Good morning. So let me bring this slideshow up here. Okay. So our local road safety plan for Nevada County, we don't currently have one, so this is a new plan. And what I'm planning on talking about is the development of the plan, public outreach efforts that we've made to date and will continue to make, and then next steps for the plan. So let's start with what the state has. First of all, California has a strategic highway safety plan, and they have this really because the federal government requires it for them to obtain highway safety improvement program funds. So that's money that is used, that we've used frequently to put in high friction surface treatment, to do roadside safety signing audits, replace signing, and also to do thermoplastic striping. So because the state has this plan, and they have to have that in order to obtain highway safety funds, California has been telling us they're probably going to be requiring that soon for local jurisdictions such as Nevada County. So because of that, we are now developing this local road safety plan. We were fortunate enough to be selected to participate in a pilot project that the Federal Highway Administration and also the National Association of County Engineers held last year. And as a result, we came out of the workshop with a draft local road safety plan. And in that plan, we then took it to the public, and I'll go over that later. But I did want to mention we have California's vision here and also their goal to go towards 0 deaths, and we're mimicking that goal in our plan. And we'll go into that a little bit more here. So for plan development, we decided to follow the Federal Highway Administration's local road safety plan map. And you have that on in front of you, and there's also extra copies in the back if anyone would like an additional copy. We'll walk through this map in this presentation, but basically there's 4 major steps. The first one's to identify stakeholders. The second one's to analyze safety data. We then look at proven solutions, and then we look at how to implement those solutions. So I'll go through those briefly here. The first step, we identified stakeholders. And so for our local road safety plan, it's focusing on county roads. So our stakeholders, of course, included our citizens, multiple departments in the County of Nevada. Public Works is really acting as the lead, but also the Board of Supervisors office, the Sheriff's Department, and also the Planning Department are major components of this. We also partnered with our Nevada County Transportation Commission. The cities were also invited to participate in our local road safety plan. Schools, Caltrans, our Air Quality Mitigation District, California Highway Patrol, and then even our federal partners, FHWA, FTA, and even the U.S. Forest Service. So the next step was we analyzed our safety data. So we looked at our data from 2015 to 2017 because we developed this plan last year. And fortunately, most collisions in Nevada County, 61% during that time period, resulted in just property damage. And unfortunately, 1% of our collisions did result in fatalities. And that's what we're hoping to reduce with this plan. We looked at primary collision factors in Nevada County too. The top 3 were improper turning, with about 30% of those occurring. And that's really people, for the most part, turning in front of oncoming vehicles. Unsafe speeds was the second highest at about 30%. And this really, driving too fast doesn't allow you to react quick enough to obstructions in the roadway, and can also cause you to veer off the roadway. And then DUIs, unfortunately, came in at 3rd with about 15% of our collisions occurring because of DUI, driving under the influence. So we also looked at collision types, and the 3 primary collision types were hitting objects, were about 55% of our collisions, and that was primarily due to hitting animals, deer and so forth in the roadway, and then hitting trees when you veer off the road. Rear end accidents comprise 10% of the collisions, and a lot of these we believe are probably from drivers not paying attention, being on their cell phone, for example. And then the 3rd highest collision type was broadside accidents, and this really ties into, again, improper turning, people pulling out in front of other people, and that was about 10% of the collision types. We also looked at when most collisions are occurring in Nevada County. and 65% occur during the day. There was an increase in 2016, between 2016 and 17. Now you'll notice on this chart, and we're thinking that's really due to the atmospheric rain event that we had in early 2017. So we also looked at where collisions are occurring in Nevada County. And as you can see on this map, most of them occur in western Nevada County, which makes sense because that's where most of our county road mileage is located. We then zeroed in on where the top 5 collision locations occur. So we identified the top 5 intersections and our top 5 road segments. It was interesting to note that our top 5 intersections, every one of these intersections, we have some type of improvement already planned for that. And then the road segments, we have high friction surface treatment or signing improvements already planned. But it really enforced that we were picking the right locations already for our Highway Safety Improvement Program funds. But this plan will help us to continue that focus. So then the next step on the local road safety plan map is to identify proven solutions. And I've already touched on some of those, but we combined our top 3 collision factors and types. So for example, the first one was improper turning and broadside collisions. And so some solutions to that would include better signing and vegetation management. The second one, we lumped together unsafe speeds, object impact, and rear-end collisions. And solutions for that, again, could be signing, traffic calming, increased law enforcement, use of our speed trailer, and public education. And then for our third collision factor and type was DUI. And so solutions for that can include better education and other steps, such as perhaps increased enforcement. So for public outreach, jump to the next slide here. We partnered with Nevada County Transportation Commission, and I see Dan Landon's here. So he helped us host our public outreach meeting October 31st of 2018. And at that meeting, we had 21 people attend, and we received quite a number of comments from folks. And those comments are attached to the local road safety plan that you have. The invitation was sent to key stakeholder groups. We also advertised in our local paper, the radio, and on the internet, of course. So it was a good turnout. We were happy to see everybody there and appreciated the comments. At the public meeting, I already touched on these, but we focused on the 3 areas where we lumped together the top 3 collision types and factors. So for example, emphasis area 1 was improper turning and broadside collisions. We offered up some type of solutions, such as revising signing or implementing vegetation management, and we asked the public for other suggestions. Most suggestions were along these lines, and then some people had specific requests, like putting in a left turn lane at certain intersections, which we've now included into our local road safety plan. The second emphasis area, we combined unsafe speeds, object impact, and rear-end collisions, because a lot of these are related. So again, we offered up a couple different solutions and asked the public for ideas as well. And once again, the public gave us some very good ideas that we incorporated into the plan. The third emphasis area was driving under the influence. And we offered a couple of standard solutions. Some people gave us some very creative ideas that I don't think are legal for us to implement. So those were not included in the plan. But we did appreciate the suggestions, and if anyone else has suggestions, we'd appreciate hearing about those. And so the next steps, really the next step is adopting our local road safety plan today. We're proposing this vision that Nevada County should have a safe transportation system for all users, and a goal that we go towards 0 deaths, everyone counts. And really, it may be difficult to realize, but that's something that I think we can have as a goal. And so we may not get to 0 every year, but if we make that our goal, hopefully all agencies can be aligned in that. The idea would be too, if we adopt the plan today, is that every 3 years we would update it. And I think that's an important step. And a little bit on that. So our local road safety plan is purposefully very simple. And that was a result of the workshops that we went to with FHWA. They were really trying to find a rural agency such as ourselves to do a simple plan to show that it's possible that you don't need to hire somebody to spend $50,000 and create this beautiful, report that sits on a shelf. So this plan is very simple, and that's purposefully, so that we can look at it and update it as needed. And really, our staff has been doing this anyway. It's just really combining all of this information in one simple document that we can update. So with that, next steps after adoption would be implementing solutions. And like I mentioned before, we're already working towards implementing several solutions, like the road safety signing audit that we brought to you recently, the high friction surface treatment that we brought to you recently, and thermoplastic projects as well. And then we're looking forward to other projects like the Combi Road widening project, and we will be looking at like an intersection improvement at Rough and Ready and Ridge Road soon, so that'll help as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Trish, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Sue.
Well, I love simple is better. Some things they get so overcomplicated. I think the largest problem, of course, is driver error. Yes. And I don't know how we're ever going to fix that, but some of your implementations, I think, especially signage. I know that we look at some of those dangerous spots like on 49 where you can only turn left or right, or I came out of there one day and at a little place and I was like, whoa, this isn't very safe. So I think the signage is probably huge. And then I went and checked one of your little spots. It's really hard to tell where the friction marks are, but where that's done. But it's very interesting how that works. Yes. Your car kind of grips it a little different. And so very impressed with how that's working. So as far as questions, I don't have any. I think that we're on the right track. I do like keeping things simple, and it goes to show that you guys are already working on things that are implemented. And I think that's the important thing is this little county is actually doing what we need to do. And I think the other part comes to how we control bad drivers.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah. Well, foothill driving is certainly a lot different, and a lot of people just ignore that there's things that you have to do when you're driving, in the foothills that you don't typically have to do when you're driving the flatlands, and hills and curves are two of them, and I'm sure the Highway Patrol just shakes their heads trying to understand how did they do that and why did they do that, but you just can't fix stupid. And it was interesting, the high friction surface on Brunswick coming down. I was curious on how that worked, and realized that once you leave the high friction surface, things happen, as I watched a UPS truck come down sideways toward me. The last snowstorm, and fortunately he corrected it, which I was really pleased with. But there's just things going on up here that people distracted. But it's nice to see that you've got fixes already planned for some of those areas that are really high frequency. And I just say, make the penalties a little more strict. Maybe get their attention, but cell phones, take them out of everyone's hand. That's it. Oh, no, that's not. We can't do that. Okay.
Thanks, Dan. And Trish, I'll just note that from my perspective as a fan and student of plans and the planning process, this is an outstanding document. It's clear with regard to the statement of problems and their resolution, and more importantly, it's implementable. And so hats off to the work of your staff and you with regard to creating this document, which will be updated every 3 years, which is good to hear also. It's not something which will just land on a shelf and collect dust. So with that, do we have any public comment? Sir, step forward and please state your name.
Hi, I'm Chet Croggy, resident of South County. I'm one of the 25 people that participated in end of October, was it, you had this meeting? Two comments I'd like to make. One is what comes out really clear when you have 25 people who self-enrolled. They weren't coerced to be there. They chose to be there because of their interest in the subject matter already. The other part of that discussion is common sense. A lot of the things that are on the list, the action steps and so forth, are common sense, but you need the base data of the people who drive these roads and experience some of the things like Dan mentioned. So I would really encourage the continued use of public comment, people who are interested in this subject. The other thing is I'd like to applaud Trish and Dan Landon for leading this effort. They're doing a great job.
Mr. Krogi, thanks very much. Any additional comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do we need more discussion or a motion? Okay.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Clerk?
District 4,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes. Trish, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And Dan, thank you. Corbin? No, we don't. No, that's for presentations. So with that, let's move into agenda item 17B, which is a presentation regarding the California Highway Patrol Traffic Alliance Safety Corridors Campaign Task Force. And we have Lieutenant George Stephenson, the CHP Grass Valley Commander, and Officer Michael Steele, the CHP Public Information Officer. Gentlemen, thank you for coming here.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the Board of Soups for having us. I'd also like to extend some sincere appreciation to our partners, not only Public Works and the Nevada County Transportation Commission, Trish and Dan, but also the citizens of this county who have a strong backing in the safety of people traveling on our roadways. I work regularly with Chet. It's good to see you here this morning, Chet. The Citizens for Highway 49 Safety. Deborah and Bruce Jones have been key figures in improving the safety throughout the county, as well as other organizations. I'd like to introduce Officer Mike Steele. I have Officer Steele is my public informations officer. He is my key figure and responsible for the oversight of this grant and the success of putting it together. With that, I wanted him to provide the presentation to you this morning. Just a little background. I've been here since 2014, August, and in the 2013 and 14 federal fiscal years, we had 224 injury collisions. As of 15-16, and this is throughout the entire county that we're responsible for, not including trucking. In the 2015-16 federal fiscal year, we had an increase to 328 injury collisions. And my staff and I looked at this and trying to think outside the box with suggestions and help from our partners. What can we do to try to make our roadways safer? A little more background. In 2015, we had 9 fatals. 16, we had 8. 17, we had 10. And 18, unfortunately, jumped to 17 fatal collisions with 20 victims, actually. So in 2017-18 federal fiscal year, we started putting together a grant proposal for extra funding for enforcement, education, and involvement not only from our public partners, but the citizens in the county. We were successful at that thanks to Officer Steele and a lot of hard work from my staff. And OTS actually, the initial part of the grant was for our primary traffic corridors. However, when we presented it, the OTS expanded it so that we can actually use it on any problematic road through the county that we deem that has issues. So that's been very gracious to us in that we're able to put officers not only on our corridors, but also our county roads to help with reducing collisions and injury collisions. So with that, we were approved for the OTS grant, and which started in October. And with that, I'm going to have Officer Steele give a brief overview on the grant process and what we're doing to make our roadways safer.
Thank you for having me, and I could not have asked for a better segue than Ms. Tildson's presentation because I actually can help. I'm going to be part of the education and the solutions for the county roads with the enforcement education issues. With this grant, this grant was put together by NHTSA and OTS, the Office of Traffic Safety and National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They collected data of a 3-year period from 2014 to 2016 to identify on, they primarily focused on the state route, the corridors. But then, as Lieutenant said, they opened that up later on to include the entire counties. But the primary overview of what we want to focus on are the 4 E's, is what we call it: the education, enforcement, engineering, and EMS, emergency, fire, medical. Unfortunately, I can't talk about all 4. I can only talk about the first 2, education and enforcement. But when we presented this, the initial task force meeting, and this is, I wanted to give you guys the overview of this. We had Caltrans engineers, county roads engineers, and members from EMS there to go over topics for them. I'm not going to speak on their behalf on this meeting, but just to kind of go over our portion of this. With education enforcement, that's just what I covered. I'm going to fly through this PowerPoint. This is more for a reference material. And if you have any questions about a slide, please tell me to slow down. I can go back. A lot of stats. These numbers they're numbers. So without a comparative, I can't kind of give you that. But these are where we're at. These are the statistics that NHTSA and OTS pulled to get these stats. They identified the problem areas with Placer County and Nevada County. So I'm going to focus on the green areas here, which are our interests here. On the unincorporated roads, Rough and Ready, Dog Bar, Wolf, McCourtney, and Bitney Springs were the ones that popped out. And 49-173 were the problem areas in Nevada County for the state routes, with Highway 49 and Highway 20. Highway 49 being the biggest problem of all, and most of that was in South County, not on the northern end. That was comparatively a lot quieter. I'm not going to go through these stats here, but what they did is they granted us 800 additional officer hours to enforce and educate the public on vehicle operations. That started October 1st, 2018, and that grant goes until September 30th of 2019, this year. Again, it incorporates enforcement, education, and outreach, which is all in my wheelhouse, so that's a good thing for me. The enforcement patrols, what we have done so far to this date, since we started this October 1st, we've had 32 special enforcement deployments. So that's officers above and beyond their shifts. They don't handle calls. They don't handle objects blocking the roads. They don't handle collisions. All they do is they take a ticket book, a LiDAR gun, a radar gun, and they go out and hammer violations. With those 32 deployments, we've had 710 enforcement contacts. We've had 1 arrest, 3 vehicle impounds, and 5 DUI investigations that luckily, happily, they resulted, they were not under the influence, but that's what the officer suspected at the time. So to put that in comparison, all of 2017, we had 2,900 citations. So with just 32 deployments, we are at 710 extra enforcement contacts. That's contacts we would not have made without this grant. We established a regional task force, and these are limited but not including, limited to but not including but not limited to members of the public. We open this task force up to most anybody who has the time and the ability to attend this and has some input for us. But we want to make this as transparent as we can. We want input from the public on how we can serve this grant to the community. This is our mission. Basically, we want to focus on the 3 major PCFs: right-of-way, unsafe turning, and unsafe speed. Those three PCFs are our primary concern. However, when we are on these deployments, it is all violations, all roads, all codes. If I find you on the cell phone, seat belts, registration, that all gets addressed in this grant. If we see a problem, we're going to fix it. The other end of the enforcement is where I come in on the education. I go to high schools, elementary schools. I can go to any public event. Private parties, if a company wants me to do a demonstration on safe driving. I recently did one at the Grass Valley Post Office to address some issues they had. I have this. I can travel. I can do PowerPoint. I can do no PowerPoints. If anybody of the public wants to call me and schedule a class on, hey, I need you to talk for 30 minutes on safe driving, you call me. If it's on my calendar, I'll be there. And that's how I'm going to focus on the education portion of this. I would like to see those reduced to nothing, our stats. So the goals for the Auburn area, I'm not going to speak towards them, but basically they want to reduce the same goals as we are. On that time period alone, these stats are going to the time periods that the OTS studied, we want to drop our fatal collisions at least one. Every one, like Ms. Tilton said, every one counts. Our realistic attainable goal, we want to drop that by one. Ideally, we'd like to see it at 0, but we're going to focus just that one. I can try and get that. These campaigns are similar across the state to other OTS grants that have been done, and we're kind of piggybacking off of how they've approached that. Social media, mainstream media, televised, radio, print, whatever press we can get, we'll push it out there. Community outreach, sporting events. If anybody has an event, we're asking them to just contact us. I'll be there. As long as that calendar isn't booked for somebody else, then I can make that appearance, or I can find somebody who can make it. And this is, again, going to what County Roads has done. We have identified that by hours of the day, obviously that commute time in the afternoon, that's the big hitter. Days of the week, it's pretty even across the board. Sunday obviously is going to be a little bit lower, but there's no identifiable day of the week that we're going to go hammer it. And so that's why it's completely random when we deploy these units. I don't know why they put this in there. I don't think that has any relevance because we can't control who's driving. Age groups, again, I don't know why that's in there, but I can't enforce based on age. This one here, it's safety equipment used, and this is why we're going to enforce all the safety equipment violations. Again, all roads, all codes. I'm not going to focus on whether it's a motorcycle or car. If it's doing something wrong, it's going to get a ticket when we deploy these units. Weather is not a factor when they came to these statistics. The majority of these reportable collisions were in the clear, dry conditions. So when we go to collision scenes and they say, oh, it was raining and it was snowy, and that's, it's way higher in the winter. It's obviously not. It's clear weather means higher speeds, means, they got to get there quicker. Engineering, again, I apologize, I'm not going to go through engineering's portion of it, but they have been working with us to increase signage, increase roadway condition improvements. Again, so I'm not going to speak to the Caltrans. However, with those 32 SEUs, that was up until January 31st. So from October 1st to January 31st of this year. And I will make a note that from November 8th to February 1st, we did not deploy any of those units due to the campfire and the conditions we were in. So the majority of those were October, November, and January.
Officer Seal, thanks very much. Dan?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question as far as weather, and I saw that last pie chart, and it showed it. People actually do pay attention when the weather's bad, but they drive faster when it's clear and dry. Mm-hmm. The 32 deployments, nothing slows people down quicker than seeing a black and white.
Exactly.
I mean, nothing. I mean, they could be on the other side of the freeway and they're going to slow down because they figure they're out there somewhere. At least I do. Yeah. But yeah, it's nice to see that the enhanced enforcement is being used, because certainly that's going to help us in our area.
So with this grant also is, once this grant is done, our goal is to carry the style of enforcement that we're doing and the public community outreach. We want to maintain that well after the grant's over. So even though we're not going to get hours for that, I would like to do more forums like this, open it up to the public, and they can tell me where they want me. I don't know if it's a problem if nobody tells me. Now, with social media and our number being number 1 on Google right now, for whatever reason, I'm getting a lot of input. But in a controlled environment like this would be a perfect outreach for me to get a direct voice to the public.
Yeah. Are you at full force here in Grass Valley, George?
No, Supervisor Miller. We're down one body at this time, and we're also sitting on one retirement as well as a number of injuries. So I don't project us to be fully staffed for some time, and there's a lot of factors in that.
Yeah, I know Highway 49, really, we don't really look at the county line as being between us and Placer County, and I saw on the news that they're doing something on 49 down around Lawrenson and that area. Is that something that's going to impact or help as far as the collision rates down in Placer? Because they did a news story on that on TV, and the girl in that, the mother in that was my niece, because it was her son that got killed down there a couple of years ago.
You know, Supervisor Miller, the projects in Placer County have a potential of slowing it down, because it depending on what they do, if they do the wall, if they do the roundabouts, it has a potential of slowing it down in that area and then up into our area. To what extent with the volume at this point, I can't really answer that. What we need to do, I know, in our area is continue working on with Caltrans on the engineering side of the safety improvements on the corridor in Nevada County, but particularly the enforcement. That is going to be the key thing to slow people down. As you said earlier, when you see a black and white or sheriff's vehicle, any patrol vehicle, that's what slows people down.
Yeah, thank you.
One last, I'd really like to extend my appreciation to the Board of Supervisors for the letter prepared, which helped us attain this grant. And to kind of give a comparison, the same, even though we had the campfire, the same time from last federal fiscal year to this, the start of this grant, October 1st to February 1st, I believe it was, we don't have the solid numbers in yet, but we're seeing approximately a 25% reduction in overall collisions in the county.
Sue, any questions or comments?
Well, Dan asked some of them, so that was good, because I was just curious too. It is nice to see you. We even see you in Pin Valley area, and I saw somebody all the way up north on 49, and those folks are looking for that visual, and I think it's important. People do drive crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, in the snow, I was just shocked the other day, people passing me coming up the hill. I'm like, seriously? So you guys have a terrifically crazy job, and we appreciate you very, very much. And I think the sad thing is that you're shorthanded, because we need you here, and well, the whole state of California. But so I hope you get up to full capacity in your officers. I don't know how many go out every day, but I can't imagine what it'd be like if we didn't have you out there on the roads with us here in Nevada County. It's pretty exciting to see that the numbers are going down instead of going up. I mean, I think what Trish is doing is going to help that as well. So it's nice to see everybody work together.
Yeah, we'll be working closely together with, with our efforts, and then wherever she can direct us, if there's a problem spot that she can identify, we can park an officer there and try and control that.
So with your education program, do you do something with the schools as well?
I can teach from 5 years old to 90 years old. 95 is pushing it, but I can still do it.
Nice. I love the little kids.
He was reading to young children a couple weeks ago. That was great.
Oh, I think that's excellent. The little kids tell the truth.
And
hey, Grandpa's speeding. Oh.
I have, I
Don't talk on your phone, Grandpa. I heard you're not supposed to do that.
I have specific curriculums from, the ages of 5 all the way up to senior driving. And I can do a hybrid of in-betweens, or I can just get up and I'm actually not bad at winging it, so if you just throw a topic at me and I can kind of go on for 5 minutes or 2 hours, however long you guys want me to.
That's nice. So have you ever done one of our library series? Like where they put it on at the library and invite folks to come?
I have not, but if I would be open to, I would love to come.
Great.
Sue, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So question, cannabis. Nevada County is a cannabis cultivation area, has been for a number of years, and will continue to be, given the direction of the board. With Prop 40 liberalizing both the cultivation and usage of cannabis a couple of years ago, statewide or locally, are we seeing a change in cannabis-related incidents, accidents?
Do you know the numbers for here? Because we especially in our fatals, not just cannabis, but combination cannabis and alcohol. I don't have the specific numbers.
Yeah, I don't have a stat on actual marijuana involved due to the fact that the presumptive level of a cannabis concentration in your blood has not been determined yet by any medical boards. But I can't, and just on personal experience, the vehicles that I have, I'm one of the vehicle inspectors when somebody has a high-profile collision or a fatality, that I'm the one who tears the car apart and determines whether there's any mechanical failures on that. And I can say is that when I do tear these cars apart, there is cannabis in the car. Whether that's a direct correlation or not, I would say 75% of those cars have some sort of cannabis-related material in it.
Well, as potent as the cannabis is right now, you take one hit off one of those, a joint, I mean, you're impaired. It's just remarkable the potency that we're seeing right now.
Yes, that's one of the problematic areas for determining DUI because it affects everybody different. The cannabis is different across the board comparative to alcohol. Finding how many nanograms are going to be a presumptive limit. To further answer your question, from talking to commanders from across the state, yes, we're seeing an increase. I can't give you a number. I know they're working at doing studies. We were directed by the governor's office. We have put together a unit specifically to try to catch up with this implementation, figure out what is going to be a presumptive limit, what we can use in a tool in our tool belt to help assist us with impairment, such as whether it's a breath test or a saliva test. So this unit works every day trying to get all this stuff taken care of and work with the legislative process and enacting laws in the future which are going to assist law enforcement in curbing it. But it is a problem. We do see it. And again, I can tell you, in fatal collisions and other collisions, we get these results that yes, it is in their blood, but it's difficult sometimes to say that they were impaired because it affects everybody differently. So that's why we need to come up with the legal grounds.
And the current process for determining under the influence right now, it's standardized field sobriety tests. And so we have multitasking, coordination, you know, the common ones you see, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, things like that. However, there's no field indicator similar to a PAS machine where you can get an indicator of how much you have in your system. So what we do is we see the presentation of the symptoms similar to that of a DUI driver. So when I make, I make a determination that somebody's under the influence of alcohol, it's a similar thing with marijuana. So if I determine that their hand-eye coordination and their balance and their multitasking functions are similar to that I see in an intoxicated driver, that's the basis for my arrest. Now, we still get a blood test. We still submit that to the courts, and whether the courts have enough information there to make a determination with the juries and the judges and all that, that's completely out of our hands. However, the problem when we come to these major injury and fatal collisions is that there are no field sobriety tests being able to be administered. And so you have to go on the presumption, well, there's something in the car. I don't know. And then, so that's the hard part. With alcohol, we have a gauge where you can smell it. There's the level of that alcohol in there. And we're tried and true on that. I mean, I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken about that when it came to some alcohol. But the marijuana, it's a wild card when there's just marijuana in a car.
I just have one question, though. Seriously, cannabis has been around for years. And, I mean, is it just now you're paying attention, or are you really seeing a difference? I'm just curious because...
We've enforced it over the
years.
Forever.
Yeah.
It's just now we're getting more direct questions about it.
That's what I'm just saying. It was always
we've
there,
always
but
taken
now we're
action
just
on
wanting
DUI,
to get better statistics now, or people are asking for those. I think it was always there, but now it's just more out in the public eye.
Well, and I think one part of it is now that it's legalized, you are going to see people experimenting more, which than in the past that we did. And with that, you're going to have an increase in an increase over everybody using it. Obviously, increases, which is then going to increase in collisions. Mm-hmm. It itself or being a factor in a collision. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I would think the takeaway for the public is if you are going to experiment or or do something new,
Don't drive.
please understand what the hazards might be. And especially if the hazards not just for oneself, but for other people on the road, which is the purpose of this question in the first place. So,
Exactly.
so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comment from the public? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And this is a presentation, so there's no action by the board. But we really appreciate you coming in. I know you guys are busy, I'm sure, given the storm that we're having right now. But it's this is informative and very useful. So thanks.
Thank you. Is this televised?
Yes.
I'd like to point out, I just got notification that Highway 49 at Tyler Foot has been reopened.
Thank you.
So let me
Excellent.
just make sure.
Thank you again. to the
Well,
Board
good,
of
thanks for all you guys do.
Yes.